Hi all, a very good day to all. Myself Kartika, Assistant Professor, Computer Science and Engineering in Banari Amman Institute of Technology. Hope all are doing well.
While solving a maze, we don't know exactly where to go during our first move, and the move performed may or may not be correct in some cases. In such situations, taking a decision is quite difficult, and if we make wrong decisions, we may be stuck out in a loop. In order to avoid this, before solving a maze, we may look out into the plan of the maze and the ways to be performed by verifying the route map of the maze or consulting with the players who played before. This process would limit the time utilized in solving the maze. Such kind of procedures are used by compilers in the way of semantic actions for making the passes pass effectively. The passers do not pass the input as such, whereas it verifies the semantic action rules associated with the grammar and then perform passing of the input. Today, let us discuss the kinds of semantic action rules associated with the predictions for different kinds of programming statements. In our previous lecture, we have discussed the semantic rules to be followed for flow of control statements, Boolean expressions, and for assignment statements. Today, let us discuss case statements and procedure calls. Case statements is nothing but switch case statements. In a switch case statements, there is a selector expression. So this expression is nothing but this expression is the one which we will evaluate, and this is followed by some n constant values that the expression can take. And the switch casement also comprise a default value which constantly match the expression if no further value is matched. So we have already studied about switch case statements. So the switch case statements will be executed. First the expression will be evaluated. The result of this expression is matched with this case values. If it matches with any of these values, that particular statement will be evaluated. If it doesn't match with any of the case values, then the default statement will be executed. This is how a switch expression is executed. For example, if the result of this expression is equal to 1 means the statement 1 will be executed. If the result of this expression matches with this case 2 means the statements under case 2 will be executed. If it matches with none of the cases, then the statement under default will be executed. So this is how a switch expression will be performed. Now consider the statement switch E begin case V1 S1, case V2 S2, and so on up to case Vn-1 Sn-1, and default contains statement Sn, end. Okay, so this is a simple switch statement. So there are two ways of implementing the switch case statements. Let us see one by one. So the first method of implementation is, first we will execute a code to evaluate this expression E. After evaluating this expression E, the result will be stored in the temporary variable T. Okay, so once a keyword switch is undergone, what the compiler will do means compiler will start evaluating the expression associated with the switch statement, and this expression, the result of this expression is stored in a temporary variable T. Okay, after storing the result in the temporary variable T, the result will be checked with each of the cases. Okay, if it match with a particular case, the statements under that particular case will be executed. Likewise, it will check sequentially with all the cases. If no match is found, then the statements under default will be executed. Okay, so first value present in the temporary variable T is checked whether it is not equal to V1 or not. If it is not equal to V1, it will go to L1. So L1 is nothing but it is simply a label. So this contains the statements of case V2. Okay, so L1 contains the statements of case V2. So if this is not equal means we have to go and check case V2. Where case V2 will be there? Case V2 is under label L1. If case V2 is not true, then it go and check case V3 Where case V3 will be there? Case V3 will be under the label L3. Okay. Likewise, each and every labels will hold the case block of statements. So first we will check whether the value in T is not equal to V1. If it is not equal to V1, it will go to L1. Otherwise, the statement under S1 will be executed. That is, the code for S1 will be executed. After executing it, it will go to next. So next is nothing but it is like a break statement. Okay. Go to next will make the loop come out of the switch statement. Okay. So it is like a break statement. After checking each and every cases, we will have a what? We will have a break statement in switch case usually. So this will help us to come out of the switch case. Okay. Next, if in L1 we will contain the case V2. Again we will check whether T is not equal to V2 or not. If it is not equal to V2, we will go to where? We will go to L2. So L2 will contain the statements for checking the case V3. Okay. If it is equal means if statement is false, then the code for S2 will be executed. After executing it, it will move to next. Go to next. So the same process will be executed. Here finally we are having case Vn-1. So case Vn-1 will be present where? It will be present in Ln-2 label. In Ln-2, we will check whether T is not equal to Vn-1. If it is not equal to Vn-1 means it go to where? It will go to Ln-1 because after Ln-2, the next label is Ln-1 only. So it will go to Ln-1. If it is false means, if this if condition is false means, this statement Sn-1 will be executed. That is code for Sn-1 will be executed. After that, it is moved to next. Okay. Then after L-1, we will have L-2. Since this is the last case, the next two, the last case is what? The default one. So the default statement is stored under the label Ln-1. So Ln-1 contains what? Contains the statement under default thing. Then finally, next. So next label helps us to come out of the loop. Okay. So this is one method of implementing the switch case statement. The another method is here. First, we will evaluate the code to evaluate the expression E, and after evaluating the expression E, the result will be stored in the temporary variable T. Then we have created a new label called test. Okay, we will go to test. After evaluating the expression, we immediately move to where? We move to test. Okay. Then after that, we will store each and every cases under the labels. Okay. So label L1 will store what? It will store case V1. Label L2 will store what? It store the case V2. Okay, that is given here. Label L1 contains the code for S1. After executing it, we have to go to next. And L2 will contains the code for S2. After executing it, we go to next. Similarly, Ln-1 will contain what? Will contain the code for Sn-1. Then we will go to next. Okay. So Ln contains the code for default statement, that is Sn. Okay. So first we will evaluate the expression, then go to the label test. Okay. After that, there are some sequence of instructions, sequence of labels which holds the values of each and every cases. Okay. Then what test contains? In test label only, we are actually testing where the loop has to go. Okay. Actually, we will test the value that is stored in the temporary variable with the case values. Okay. So for example, first we will check whether if T is equal to V1. V1 is nothing but it is case 1. Okay. If it is equal to case 1 means where it has to go? It has to go to the label L1. If it is false means the next statement is checked. If T is equal to V2. If it is equal to V2, where it has to go? It has to go to L2. Okay. Similarly, if T equal to Vn-1, where it has to go to? It has to go to Ln-1. So if none of the cases is matched, then it has to move to where? It has to move to the default case. The default case is directly provided in the goto statement. So after checking all the if conditions, last one is we are providing a goto statement to move to the default statement. So goto Ln will helps to execute the default statement. When the default statement is executed, after checking all the cases, the default statement will be executed. So goto, after checking the conditions with all the case values, if all the if conditions goes false, then finally it will go to where? It will go to Ln that is, it is go for executing the statements present under the default label. Okay. Then finally it comes to next. Next is nothing but it contains a loop for coming out of the switch statements. Okay. So this is the two ways of implementing the switch case statements. If you check with case 1, in case 1 all the jumps are shorter jumps, isn't it? See, here we go to L1. Where is L1? L1 is here itself. Then we go to L2. Where L2? L2 is here itself. So all the jumps are shorter jumps. Whereas in case of case 2, first we will check the condition. If it is equal means we go to L1. So this is somewhat longer jumps compared to case 1. We go to L2. Okay. Compared to case 1, the jumps used in case 2 is somewhat longer. Okay. So this kind of jumps will be processed efficiently only if we have some n-way branch hardware instruction codings in our system. So if we have some such kind of n-way branch instruction codes associated with our system assembly, then this kind of longer jumps could be performed effectively than the shorter jumps, right? So these are the two methods of implementing the switch cases. So compared to case 1, case 2 is effective if we have n-way branch oriented hardware instruction in our system. Okay. So after performing these kinds of operations, usually our compiler will store all the labels where it store all the label in the symbol table. So for processing the labels, it will maintain a stack. So the stack will contain what? It contain a pointer entry to each of the labels present in the symbol table. Okay. So after reading the pointer value pass on the case stack from the bottom to the top, we can generate some 3 address codes for this switch statements. Okay. So the 3 address codes will be like this. Case V1, if it is case V1, have to go to which pointer value? It has to move to the pointer value that contains label L1. If case V2 means it has to move to the pointer value of L2, case L2. If it is case Vn-1, it move to Ln-1. If it is case T, it moves to Ln. Then finally we move to the label next. Okay, so this is the sequence of 3 address statements generated for a switch statement. So here T holds the value of the selector expression. Then Ln is nothing but a label for the default statement. And if L1 is nothing but it is a label for the case V1. L2 is the label for the case V2. Okay. Now let us check with some examples. First consider the statement, switch statement. Switch CH, case 1 is equal to C is equal to A plus B, then break. Case 2 is equal to C is equal to A minus B, then break. So this is a simple switch statement. So let us write the 3 address code for this switch statement using the cases that we have discussed earlier. Okay. So first we will check the condition. We will try to evaluate the expression, right? So if CH equal to 1, we will move to the label L1. Okay. If CH equal to 2, we will move to the label L2. Since only 2 cases are given, we will check only 2 times. 2 checkings will be there. First checking whether it is equal to 1, value is equal to 1. Then the second checking whether the value is equal to 2. Okay. If it is equal to 1, it will move to the label L1. So absolutely what L1 will contain? L1 will contain the statements of case 1. Okay. So what is the statement of 1? C is equal to A plus B. How we will write a 3 address code for C is equal to A plus B? First we will evaluate C is A plus B. Okay. A plus B, and we will store the result in a temporary variable. Let it be T1. Then what we will do? So A plus B result will be stored in T1. Then we will assign this value of T1 to C. Okay. So C is equal to T1. After that we break it out. So break it out is nothing but we will go to some next. As per the general 3 address code for the switch statement, we will go to which label? We will go to the next label. Break is represented in the form of next label. Okay. Then L2 will contains what? L2 will contain the statement under case 2. In case 2, what statement we are having? C is equal to A minus B. So first A minus B will be evaluated and the result is stored in some temporary variable T1. Then after that we will assign the value of T1 to C. So C is equal to T1. Then finally we will go to next. So this is the corresponding 3 address code for the switch statement. Okay. Next, consider the statement if C plus F greater than D minus E, then do x is equal to x plus a of I into b of I, while I less than 20, else x equal to 0. This particular programming code contains a if-else block. Inside a if-else block, we will having a do loop. Okay. So we have already seen how to write a 3 address code for arrays also. So we are going to combine it and we are going to write a 3 address code for the complete block of statement. Okay. So the first statement, in the first statement, first we will evaluate this expression C plus F. Okay. We will evaluate it and store it under T1. Then we will evaluate D minus E and we store in the temporary variable T2. After that we will check the condition if, what is the result of C plus F? C plus F is stored in T1. What is the result of D minus E? It is stored in D2. So what we will check? If T1 is greater than T2. So if it is greater, if the condition is true, we will go to some position. Okay, let me check this position after that. Otherwise, if this condition is false, we will make a go to statement. So that go to statement will go where? It go to the else block. According to our 3 address code format of if else block, after a if statement, we will write what? We will write a else statement. That is, we will write a go to statement for the else statement. So we will write a go to statement and we will mark the number later on. Okay, now it is marked 17. Let us check what number would be. Okay, we will mark the number where the else statement is present. Right? Next, after that, if this condition is true, we will execute this thing. Okay. So where this part is present, this particular execution begins in the statement 5. So if condition is true, we will go to where? We will go to 5. Okay. Then first we will write the 3 address code for this array A of I. So for writing an array, the general method of writing a 3 address code is first we will write 4 into I. So 4 into I is stored under a temporary variable. Then address of A minus 4, that is stored under the temporary variable T4. Then T4 of T3 is stored in T5. So these 3 statements is the one which we write for generating an array. Okay. First we will multiply 4 into I and we will store it in a temporary variable. Then we will minus the address of A with 4 and we will store it in a temporary variable. After that we will write that in the array format, that is T4 of T3 we will write. So this is for the first array statement A of I. So where it is stored? It is stored in T5. The result is stored in T5. Then again for B of I also we can write. So first 4 into I. So let this 4 into I be stored in T6. Then after that what we will do? Address of A minus 4. So the result is stored in where? It is stored in T7. Then we have to write T7 of T6. So this is for the next array. So the result will be stored where? The result will be stored under T8. So B of I is present where? B of I is present in T8. So this is the format for creating a 3 address code for an array. We have already discussed this. Next, T5 we have determined and A of I we have determined and B of I we have determined. Next we have to multiply this 2. So we have to multiply T5 and T8 and the result will be stored where? It is stored in T9. After that, what we have to do? We have to add with x. So before that, we have to store x in another temporary variable. So x is stored in the temporary variable T10. After that, we will add what? We will add T9 and T10 and store the result in T11. So this complete expression result is stored where? It is stored in T11. Okay. After that, what we have to do? We have to assign this T11 to x. So x is equal to T11. So this complete statement is converted into the 3 address code. Then next, finally, what we have to do? We have to check a while loop, a condition we have to check. So if I less than 20, if this condition is true, if I is less than 20, if this condition is true, again what to do? Again we have to do the same thing because it is a while loop. So where we have to go? We have to go to the starting of this 3 address code. Where this is started? It is started in 5. So it will go to 5. So this will be executed until this condition is false. Okay. Then after that we are having a else block. So after this complete do while loop goes false, we have to go to some position. Okay, so we will write a go to statement, and this go to statement will execute what? Will be execute the else statement. Okay, so the next statement is else statement. What else statement is? Else statement is nothing but x is equal to 0 is the else statement. So x is equal to 0. So what is the number of the statement where the else statement is there? 17 is the number. So you have to go to 17. Again coming before, after checking the if condition, we will write a go to statement. That go to statement is nothing but it go to the statement where the else block is executed. So now according to our 3 address code, where the else statement is executed, it is executed in statement number 17. So we will write 17 here. Okay, so this is the complete 3 address code for this program. Next, backpatching. So backpatching, what does mean by backpatching? Backpatching is nothing but it is a technique to solve the problem of replacing symbolic names in go-to statements by the actual target addresses. Okay, so this problem comes up because some languages do not allow symbolic names in the branches. So backpatching helps to solve the problem that occur in Boolean expression and flow of control statements. Okay, and it is also used to generate the code for our Boolean expressions and flow of control statements in one pass. Backpatching is nothing but it is the activity of filling up unspecified information of labels using appropriate semantic actions during the code generation process. Right? So when we generate go to statements in 3 address code, we will generate go to statements. No. So when we generate such kind of go to statements in 3 address code, sometimes we don't know what label to use to forward jump. See here in our previous example itself, we have written go to, then we have left the label blank. After executing each and every statement, when we will fill that label of the go to statement, right? So in such cases, we feel blank of what label has to be used in case of go to statement. Okay, so that problem is avoided by our backpatching technique. So the key idea of backpatching is that it maintain a list of branches that have the same target label. So the function backpatch p of I, this function, this will maintain a list of branches that have the same target label, and what it will do means it will replace them once they are defined, and it leave the unspecified thing and fill it in later when we know what it will be. Okay, so this is the key idea behind backpatching. So backpatching has 4 important functions. First is make list of I. So make list of I helps to create a new list containing only I, and it return a pointer to the list. Then merge P1 comma P2. So this merge lists pointer to by P1 and P2, and it return a pointer to the concatenated list. Then backpatch of P comma I. So this will insert I as the target label for the statements in the list pointed to by P. Okay, so for the statements pointed by P, for all the statements pointed to by B, pointed to by P, it will mark I as the target label. The next quad, so next quad, it gives the index of the next quadruple to be generated. So these are the 4 basic functions of backpatching. Now let us take a Boolean expression e dot true list. If e dot true list equal to true, when it is true, if the expression is true. Then e dot false list is true when if the expression is also true. Okay, now let us consider the grammar. E gives E1 or ME2, E1 and ME2, not E1, E1, ID1, reloop ID2, E gives true, E gives false, and M is equal to epsilon. So the semantic rules for this production is given here. We have used synthesized attributes called true list and false list. Okay, so this true list and false list of non-terminal E are used to generate jumping codes for Boolean expressions. Okay, as code is generated for E, when a code is generated for this expression, it jumps to the true and false, exists or left incomplete with the label field unfilled. Okay, we will left the label field unfilled. For that, what we will do means we will insert a marker non-terminal m. So this is a non-terminal m. So this marker is inserted into the grammar. So what is the use of this marker means it is used to pick up index of the next quadruple. Okay, so where the next quadruple has to be fetched, that index will be gathered by this non-terminal m. So m dot quad will records the number of the first statement of E2 code. Okay, see for example, if we are evaluating even means what this m E2 will contain means it will contain in which statement this E2 code begins. That is, it store the number of the first statement of the expression 2. Okay, so the synthesized attributes are true list and false list as told before. When E1 is false, E is also false. Okay, E1 is false, E is also false. So statements in E1 dot false list becomes part of the statements of E dot false list. And when if E1 is true, then E2 must be tested, isn't it? E1 is false means E is also false. If E1 is true means we have to test what? We have to test E2 also. So E2 must be tested. So the target of E1 dot true list, the E1 dot true list is nothing but the beginning of E2. So that is the target of E1 dot true list. So the target of E1 dot true list is obtained from where? It is obtained from the marker m with the help of m dot quad. So m dot quad helps us to record the number, that is the position of the first statement of E2 code, because if E1 is true, the code flow will depend on E2, isn't it? If E1 is true, we have to check what? Obviously, we have to check the expression true. So that expression 2 can be obtained from where? It can be obtained from m dot quad, because m dot quad holds the position where this expression true begins. So it holds that number. From that m dot quad, we can obtain where the next expression has to be checked. Okay, so this is the usage of this synthesized attributes, true list and false list. So this action, semantic action, is already we have seen in our previous classes and all. So for the expression E gives E1 or m E2, first we will backpatch E1 dot false list comma m dot quad. For true list, if E1 is true, that is for true list, what we have to do? We have to merge E1 dot true list and E2 dot true list. If it is false, for E dot false list, E2 dot false list, that is equal to E2 dot false list. Then if an expression is like this, E gives E1 and m E2, what we will do means we will backpatch E1 dot true list and m dot quad. Here, since it is an AND operator, if this is true, E dot true list is equal to what? E dot true list is equal to E2 dot true list. When both are true only, E is true, isn't it? Because it is an AND operator. So E dot true list is equal to E2 dot true list, and E dot false list is equal to, for false list, what we have to do? We have to merge E1 dot false list comma E2 dot false list. Then for the expression E gives not E1. So for that, E dot true list is equal to E1 dot false list. E dot false list is equal to E1 dot true list, since the operator is a NOT operator. Then E gives E1. This means E dot true list is equal to E1 dot true list. E dot false list is equal to E1 dot false list. Then if a relational operator is given, E gives ID1, reloop ID2. In this case, for true list, E dot true list, what we have to do means we have to make a list of next equal. Okay, we have to make a list. Then for E dot false list, also we have to make a list next equal plus 1. Then what we have to do means we have to generate if ID1 an operator ID2. Then we have to go to some statement. Then next, after the if statement, we will usually have a go to statement. So we have to generate the go to. Okay, so here we have to fill the position where into which label the go to statement has to move. Then if E gives true means E dot true list is equal to make list of next equal. Then we have to go to some statement. For E dot false list is equal to, we have to make list of next equal. Then we have to generate a go to statement. So these are the semantic action rules associated with this grammar. This semantic action rules we have already discussed in the previous class itself. Hope you understand the meaning of each and every line. Okay. So what is the use of m dot quad? M dot quad is used to store the position where the next expression begins. Okay, for example, E1 and E2, two expressions are there means m dot quad will store the number where E2, the expression E2 begins. Okay, why this has to be stored means, because if expression 1 is true means we have to go and check what? We have to go and check the expression 2. So we have to know where that expression 2 is present. Okay, so for that usually we will use go to statements. So this go to statement cause some confusions in the coding blocks. So in order to avoid that only we have come into the concept of backpatch. So backpatch helps avoiding the confusion that is caused due to the go to statements. Instead of it, in backpatch what we are using another non-terminal called a marker m. So this marker m helps to hold the position of the target statements. Right, now let us check an example using backpatch. So consider the statement A less than B or C less than D and E less than F. Okay, so here expression 1 or expression 2. Okay, and this whole is again what? It is an expression 1 and it has to checked with an AND operator expression 2. Right, so now how we will write a 3 address code for this? So first, for the expression A less than B, let us initialize the quad, the next quad to 100. So it starts with 100. In 100 statement, we will be checking whether A is less than B. If A is less than B, we will go to some statement. That is where we will go. We will go to what? We will go to the statement. That is, we will go and check whether C is less than D. So that is where the flow has to be redirected. Okay, this position is held by what? It is held by the marker m. Okay, then in 101 usually we will have a go to statement. So this go to statement will redirect to 102. Okay, so this go to will contain what? This go to will contain the condition where the next expression is checked. Okay, for the next expression C less than D, it starts with 102. So what it check? It check whether if C is less than D. If C is less than D, if both statements are true, then we will go and check what? We will go and check whether E is less than F or not, because we are having a AND operator. So this will redirect to E less than F condition checking. So it will go to where? It will go to 104. Then in 103 we will have some go to statements. So this will notify what? This will indicate the false list labels. Okay. Then for expression E less than F, so this starts with the statement 104. So if E is less than F, if the condition is true, we will go to some position that is outside the loop, because all the conditions has been checked. Then in 105 also we will make a go to statement. Okay. Now let us check how backpatch semantic rules is used for obtaining this position of go to statements. Okay. So for the first expression is equal to what? It is equal to E1 or ME2. That is what it is given, right? If A less than B or C less than D. So that is the first condition. So that is equal to E1 or E2. That is E1 or ME2. For this, the first semantic action rule is we have to use backpatch E1.falseList, M.quad. Simply I have used semantic action rule of the first production I have used. So what is given here? Backpatch of E1.falseList, M.quad. That is given, right? So I am using the same thing here since it is a OR operator. Backpatch of E1.falseList, M.quad. So what is E1.falseList? When this expression is false, if A less than B is false, it will go to where? It go and check the next condition. That is, it will go and check the second expression, right? Since it is an OR operator, if any one expression is true, then that condition is evaluated. That expression is evaluated because it is an OR operator. Okay. So first we will check the expression 1. If the expression 1 is true, that's all. It's over. Okay. We have obtained an answer. It's no need to check the expression 2. Whereas if expression 1 is false, then definitely we will go and check the expression 2. Right. So what E1.falseList contain? E1.falseList should contain the position of the expression 2. Okay. So where expression 2 begins? Expression 2 begins in 102. What even.false list will contain? Even.false list will contain next statement. Okay, so what is the next statement? 101 is the next statement, so that is placed in 101. Then m.quad, you know, m.quad will record the position of the statement, that is position of the second expression. Okay, where second expression starts? Second expression starts in 102. Okay, this is stored in m.quad. So even.false list contain 101 and m.quad contains 102. So this is the labels of the go to statements. So 101 will contain go to 102. Okay, hope you understand. Then for the next expression, so this expression is for the complete thing, that is if A less than B or C less than D and E less than F. After checking these two conditions, we have to check this condition, because only when this is true we will check E less than F, because we have joined these two expression with an AND operator, right? So both expression has to holds true. After evaluating C less than D, so what is the semantic rule for this expression? Backpatch of even.trueList comma m.quad. So if the expression 1 is true, we have to go and check the expression 2. If the expression 1 is false, no need to check the expression 2. We can simply come out of the loop. Whereas if expression 1 is true, we have to go and check expression 2, because it is an AND operator. What even.trueList will contain? It will contain 102. Okay. The expression 1 true list. If expression 1 is true, what is checked? 102. The 102 statement is evaluated. Then what m.quad contain? M.quad contain the starting position of the second expression. What is the second expression? E less than F is the second expression. So what is its starting position? 104 is the starting position. So that is present in m.quad. Okay. So in the label 102, we will check if C less than D. If this condition is true, we will go to where? We will go to 104. So that is how this label will be filled using the backpatch rule. Hope you understand the usage of backpatch technique. Backpatch technique is used to determine the label where the go to statement has to forward. Okay. Next, procedure calls. The set of instructions that perform a specific task are called as procedure calls. So procedures, we all know procedure is an important and a frequently used programming construct for a compiler. It is used to generate a good code for procedure calls and returns. Okay. Calling sequence. What is mean by calling sequence? See, when a procedure is called, the translation for a call includes a sequence of actions that taken on entry and exit from each procedure. Okay. So for this calling sequence, some actions are performed. Okay. The actions that take place in a calling sequence are when we call a procedure. Okay. When a procedure call occurs, then a separate space is allotted for activation record. Then what we will do means we will evaluate the argument of the called procedure. After that, we will establish the environment pointers, okay, to enable the called procedure to access the data in enclosing bracket, because the called procedure has to access the data, right? So that is enabled by establishing the environmental pointers. Then what we will do means we will save the state of the calling procedure so that it can resume execution after the call. And also it saves the return address. Return address is nothing but it is the address of the location to which the called routine must transfer after it gets completed. Then finally we generate a jump to the beginning of the code for the called procedure. So these are the steps or actions that takes place in a calling sequence. Let us consider a grammar. So S gives call ID of EList, EList gives EList comma E, EList gives E. A suitable transition schema for procedure call would be this one. So production rule and semantic action. So S gives call ID of EList. So for this, the semantic action is for each item P on Q, what we have to do means we have to generate the parameters for the procedure call. Then we have to generate call ID dot place. Then for EList gives EList comma E. For this production rule, what we will do means we will append the E dot place to the end of the queue. Then for EList gives E, we will initialize Q to contain only e dot place. Okay, so this is the semantic action for the production rules of the procedure, and Q is used to store the list of parameters in the procedure call. Okay, so we all know that 4 ways are there for calling the procedure. One is by call by value. So call by value, what it contains means it transmits value of the parameters of the call to the called program. Okay, the transfer is one way only, and therefore the only value to be returned can be the value of a function. So next is call by address. Call by address is nothing but it is an effective address of the actual parameters, and this is evaluated at the point of call or passed through parameter descriptors. Okay, so the called procedures uses these addresses as the address of the corresponding formal parameters. This refers to the actual parameters in the calling procedure. Okay, that is call by address. And call by name. So in this method, at every reference to a formal parameter in a procedure body, the name of the corresponding actual parameter is evaluated. Okay, so access is made to the effective parameter. Then call by reference. So this mechanism transmits the address of the parameters of call to the called program. That is call by reference. We have already studied the example program of call by value, call by address, call by reference, and call by name and all in the programming subjects. So I think it is no need to explain in detail about what is mean by call by value, call by address, call by name, and call by references. So these are the semantic action rules for generating the 3 address code, that is intermediate code in a compiler. So we have discussed the semantic action rules for different kinds of statements, like for Boolean expressions, for assignment statement, for procedure calls, for array references, and for case statements. So using this semantic action rules along with the production grammar, the compiler will generate the intermediate code in an effective manner.
Okay guys, let me meet you all with another interesting lecture. Bye-bye.